Two friends, Alan Dale and Jerry Carew, who grew up just a few streets apart in St. John's East End, have been separated by Canada's geography for 3 decades. They came together virtually during the pandemic to chat about like-minded interests. Alan lives in PEI and Jerry in Newfoundland. Thriving in remoteness has been a common theme for both of them during the pandemic. Gale Force Winds, the podcast is the result.
And welcome to Gale Force Winds. I'm Alan Dale, and with me, as always, is my good buddy from St. John's, Newfoundland, Jerry Carew. How are you, Jerry?
Well, I'm always doing well when I'm seeing you, and we have another guest. I will refer to the weather because it's something that Newfoundlanders do. We are recording this episode right after the Victoria Day weekend. Friday in Newfoundland was 25 degrees, Saturday was 22, Sunday was 13, and Monday was 2 degrees and snow. So I was out on the water on my Sea-Doo on Saturday and tuning up the snowblower on Monday. But anyway, that's just a little weather update from Newfoundland.
Thanks, Jerry. The weather's always a little bit complicated in Newfoundland for sure. Well, every month we feature a sailor from the Royal Canadian Navy, and what an honor and privilege that is for Jerry and I on Gale Force Winds to be tasked with that. And this week is no exception. We're very excited to have Master Sailor Stephanie MacAndrew join us. Master Sailor Stephanie MacAndrew happens to be the Naval Reserve Master Sailor, which is quite an honor indeed. So Stephanie, without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right, thank you so much. So I'm Master Sailor Stephanie MacAndrew, and I'm joining you here from HMCS Star in Hamilton, Ontario. I'm between contracts right now. And in the back, which I think we'll see later, is HMCS Haida, which is our fleet's flagship.
Yeah. So Stephanie, you're based out of Hamilton, Ontario. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. And what's the naval significance to that part of the world?
Well, we do have a long and fantastic history because we are right on the lake. So we have the NRD is, of course, named after a ship. And we have the Haida right next to us. And whenever there's a Great Lakes tour, they usually come and make a stop here. And we have so many volunteers from around the area. There's lots of plaques, there's lots of monuments, there's lots of books from people in Hamilton and around the area who have supported the military over the years.
Stephanie, you used to have that great thing down in Star. I don't know if they still have that anymore, but it used to be a McGinty night where they used to reinvent the lower deck pub in Halifax. Do they still do that down there?
I don't know that we do anymore. We do have lots of other events, depending on who the entertainment rep is. They're usually a lot of fun. We've got game nights, bring your friend to work night. We've got in the summertime, the Hell in the Harbor is a lot of fun. It's like an obstacle race, but also it's what's the word I'm thinking of? One of those races where you're trying a scavenger hunt. So it's an obstacle race and a scavenger hunt all together. We've got Doors Open Hamilton a lot, which we feature our NRD in as well. So it's pretty fantastic to be a part of the community.
It's interesting. The Canadian Navy, well, people come from every nook and cranny of the country, don't they?
100%. And these NRDs are fantastic. They're the face of the Navy in parts of Canada that you wouldn't expect. And I can tell you that unit down there is representing our Navy very well. Stephanie, tell us about when you joined the Navy.
So I joined in 2010, and I was so very excited because at the time I was in teachers college, and I knew ever since I was a little girl that I wanted to be a part of Canada's military. I love the country, always wanted to give back, always wanted to participate, and a lot of the challenges just really spoke to me. I mean, who gets up at 5 a.m. with 50 of your best friends to go on a run? That just doesn't happen in real life. But I was absolutely born to be a teacher, and I couldn't give up that dream. But while I was in teachers college, I heard about the reserves, and I realized I really could do both. So during the year, I could come into my NRD a couple of times a week. And in the summertime, when I wasn't teaching, I would be able to go away on contracts. And it's been 11 years, and I'm so happy that I heard about it because it is just made my life so much better.
So you started as a reservist while you were in Teachers College. Where was Teachers College?
It was in Brantford. I went to Laurier and Nipissing. They both had satellite campuses there to come together so that you could go to both and do concurrent education.
So you were in school during the winter, and then you would, in the summer, head off to do your training. Yeah.
I did, yes.
So where was your first training episode? Where was that?
My very first training was basic training, and it was in Borden, Ontario.
Right. So you joined the Navy to see the world, and you got up as far as Borden.
The people really made the place. The instructors were fantastic. The other recruits were amazing. There were quite a few from Hamilton, which there always are because we have quite a large unit. So that was really great. There are still people from my basic training who are in with me, and we get to run into each other all the time, which is fantastic. But the summer after that, I went away to do NETP, and that was on the East Coast, and it was fabulous. And I got a taste of some of that travel and some of that seamanship.
Right.
What is NETP for those not in the military? Don't know. What is that?
Oh, apologies. There are so many acronyms. I don't even realize what I dropped them anymore. It's the Naval Environmental Training Program. So your basic training, there are a lot of Army skills. And then you need to do your Naval Environmental Training Program, which will train you how to be on a boat. So before you learn your trade, which in my case is Naval Communicator, you need to learn how to put out the fires, put out the floods, work on a ship, what the different spaces are, how to use the equipment and things like that, which really always drew me to the Navy, because I think it's very interesting that when you're in the middle of the ocean, you can't call the fire department, you can't call the bomb department, that it's you. So we get all of this extra training in so many different areas that would normally be other careers. So we really get a taste of everything.
Yeah, that's very cool. I remember fire school as being, and flood school, a lot of fun, a lot of excitement until the water starts creeping up past your knees, and it's quite cold. Yeah.
It is. And in Halifax, they pump it in from the local lake. That's just down the way. So it's always fun. You really get moving when that water starts to hit.
Right.
I did my flood training in British Columbia. I think it's just as cold out there. But I remember, Alan, when they test you, they can really increase the flow. And you're right, as it's rising up to your neck, it's pretty intense, isn't it?
Yeah. No.
Yes.
100%, right? And then, but what I do remember about fire and flood school was the meals at lunchtime. You're exhausted from fighting a fire or fighting a flood, and then you all kind of sit together, and you're covered in, you're wet or you're smoky or whatever, and you're all eating together. There's a real sense of camaraderie about it, isn't there?
There really is. And that was another reason I always wanted to join the military, that amazing sense of community, your family away from home, the bonding, living, working together, getting to try out all these different facets of work and life is really amazing.
Yeah. So you go off and you do your NETP. Then do you return to school, or then are you teaching?
Then I returned to school. I joined when I was in my third year. So my third year, I did basic training. And then my fourth year, that summer, I did my NETP. And then I came back for a fifth year. And then after that, I was able to start sailing in the summers.
Okay. Well, tell us about that.
Oh, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So I got in my QL3 course, which is the first course for my trade. I got to learn the job I had joined to do. And I was so excited when that was over and I finally got to go on a boat, because I thought all of these years, all of this training in the making, I get to actually try it out. And I loved it. Like, the community is there. I sail on the MCDD, so it's a smaller platform. There's at most 50 people.
Right.
So it's 50 of your best friends. You all work together. And again, because the crew is smaller, there are a lot of evolutions that are traditionally meant for only one trade, but everyone gets to help out. So there's more cross training there, which I thought was really rewarding. I got a taste of the travel. I also got a taste of other navies, because I got to go to Fleet Week in San Diego. Would have been my first, because my first sail was on the West Coast. So for Fleet Week, the US invites all of the navies from around the world, and everybody shows up. And of course, everyone likes to show off. So we all have tours of our ships. We all have sports competitions and things like that. It was the first time I ever got to use TRX bands, which were also invented by a sailor, so that you could work out even if you don't have space, even if you don't have equipment, even if your ship is rolling in the waves. So we had an organized competition on the green there, and it was really great. It kept me coming for more.
So you've gone through all this training, right? Had you ever been on a ship before up to that point in your life?
I had not. I believe there was a brief tour once on my NATP course, and then also the trainers for fire and flood. They're built so that the inside looks like a ship, so you have the hatches and you know how to plug the holes and things like that. But that was my first time on an actual sailing ship, and it was exhilarating.
Yeah, so they let the lines go. How did that feel? So you're on your way, you're in a Esquimalt, they let the lines go, you're heading off to California somewhere. How does that feel? That's got to be exciting.
So exciting. And there were, because of the time of summer that it was, there were so many of us that were brand new, and it was our first time. So there was the excitement among us, and it really ignited the excitement of all the veterans who had been there for so many years, remembering their first sail, remembering how exciting it was, getting back into the training, getting to share that with us too. So it really pumped new life into the ship.
Yeah, for sure. So a naval communicator, now that's an occupation that has really evolved over the years. Started off with flags and Semaphore, and what kind of things are you guys involved in now?
It's a mishmash of everything, and they are currently working on that. We are focusing more on IT now, because the ships all have their own servers, including the MCDVs, the smaller platform that I'm a part of. So we have to be able to take care of those, work with those. There are a lot more issues that can come up when your tech becomes more complicated. So before, we had a lot of really simple tech that we had gotten from the Second World War, and there were so few moving parts, and they were so sturdily made that they just didn't break. And when they did, it was so simple to figure it out. But now we've got laptops and software and boards and network upon network, and it's there's quite a bit more. So we are ramping up our training so that we can address all of those needs. We also still do ceremonial and flags and things like that, which we're looking at perhaps moving. The Morse code, the communicating, we still communicate by voice, by teletype, manage all the networks. It's again a lot of different things from a lot of different areas that we get to pull together.
Are you still doing flashing light at sea?
For exercise.
Just for exercise.
For exercise. There are only a few nations that keep up their skills. So every once in a while, if we're sailing in consort with one of them, we'll ask like, "Hey, let's do some flashing light," and it's really exciting. But if you've forgotten and you ask the wrong nation, they're like, "Why are we doing that?"
It's amazing. It's amazing though, listening to you, Stephanie. You know, communication is so important, and if you don't have communication, business, no matter where you are, it all breaks down. So it's such an important part of what's happening. Yeah, it
really is, especially keeping in mind that the ship, we do have our own captain, we do have our own CO, but in a very real way, they're not calling the ultimate shots. We still have to be able to communicate with the shore, and they're the ones who are going to be telling us, okay, this is your overall mission. These are the things you have to accomplish. This is why, oh, this came up. Let's consult with JAG and make sure that everything is legal. So we have to be able to talk to the shore in order to get our job done.
Yeah. Now, how about Semaphore? Is that a skill that's gone as well, or leaving?
It is gone. They stopped teaching it in the QL3, I believe, the year that I took my QL3.
Okay.
But we still have all of the references, and we still have all of the materials. And because it is such a structured system, if we had to learn it, it's very easy to look at the diagrams and figure it out. Right. And that's now the same with Morse code as well. So as of this year, I believe they started in the winter, they've just taken it out of QL3, and it's now a separate course. So if you would like the qualification, if you would like like to learn Morse code, then there is a separate course that you can take. And the people who already have it, like me, will always be very excited to trade codes and talk in Morse code with other people.
Yeah, it was, I remember being a young officer back in the 80s, and we would do a replenishment at sea where the two ships come alongside to fuel. And you would have these senior petty officers, signalmen, signal people, naval communicators now, that would be communicating with one another as the ships were next to each other, and their hands were flying. And we, as young guys, were just like, oh my God, how are they able to speak? Do you remember that, Jerry?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Mesmerizing.
It was mesmerizing to watch them, and they were just, their hands were flying, the flags were going. It was a really impressive thing. But as you say, right, I mean, the Navy has evolved, and really now it's a management of an entire communication platform, and it's vital, because without it, you just can't function.
It's true. So we have networks that are required for operational reasons. We also have networks that are required for morale reasons. So obviously, especially on a very long sail, if you're deployed for 6 to 9 months, you need a way to reach back and talk to your family. How everyone's doing, if anything's come up, what needs to happen. You need to take care of your banking and things like that. So those networks are also included in the NavCom care.
That's absolutely fascinating, right? How far the Navy has come now, and the reliance on all that. So when that stuff goes down, you must be on the hook. People must be asking questions.
It is, but again, because our training has gotten so fantastic and we've moved so far on the scale, sometimes the reasons for things that don't work, they don't make sense to other non-NavComs. So we have all sorts of jokes. You were talking earlier about reading the tea leaves. Sometimes NavComs will joke about throwing the chicken bones and trying to figure out what the problem in the network is, or maybe it's space weather, which is actually real.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, you'll be reporting that, and someone, one of the officers will say, well, can you send someone up to fix that?
What about gremlins in the machines? Do you talk about that?
Yes. We still joke about gremlins and unicorns in the machines.
So you has all your sailing been on the West Coast, or have you done East Coast sailing as well? And which do you prefer?
I've been lucky enough to be able to do both.
Right. Which do you prefer? Or
so I want to say that a lot of the ports on the East Coast are pretty fantastic. When you do an Op Carib, you've got it all there. You've also got Africa, you've got Europe on that side. On the other side, on the West Coast, I am a sailor that gets seasick.
Oh, do you?
So I really, really do. So on the West Coast, I do appreciate that there are a lot of coves and inlets, and the Pacific is not quite as punishing as the Atlantic is. And on that side, there's Asia and Hawaii, and there's California, which I've mentioned that I love, in Mexico. So ports on both are great, but different. But the sea state on the West is definitely kinder to me.
Okay. So how do you get through that seasickness?
Time and medication.
Right.
So I'm one of those that has to get there's a patch that you can buy at Shoppers Drug Mart. Some people buy it before their cruises. It lasts for about 3 days. So I'm on the patch, and I start about a week before I know we're leaving. I'm also on Gravol. For the first 2 days, I'm pretty rough. So I make sure that I have prepped absolutely everything, and everything can run seamlessly with very little oversight, because I won't be able to provide a whole lot, unfortunately. After those first 2 days, it gets better. And then as I go for about a week, I'm pretty much back up to full function. It doesn't totally reset every time we hit a port, but it definitely throws a kink in the system.
Stephanie, kudos to you though for being willing to admit that. I know that when I was in, that was 30 years ago, it was a badge of honor to not get seasick, and it probably still has that. I found it really challenging when I used to stick my head into a chart table, and then you start to smell some of the diesel. That's when I would get a little bit off. How about you, Al?
I've been seasick a couple of times, and it's not fun. And I often wonder how people who are chronic seasick do it. It would be, I would be honest with you, most people would just say, okay, this is not for me. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, I'm fascinated at people that put their head down and say, okay, I'm going to get through this because this is something I want to do. The serving in this format is more important than me getting seasick. I mean, that's fascinating because a few times that I was seasick, honest to God, I wanted to die. Like I just,
Yep.
Is it that way for you?
I'm not gonna lie, those first 2 days when I am feeling rough, I've got my head down in those clear garbage bags and I am wondering, why did I sign on to this sale? But the days pass and I always remember just how great it is to do the job I trained to do, how great it is to have all of the departments come together and work and bring the ship to life and accomplish a mission. Not to mention the ports, traveling the world is fantastic.
Yeah.
Definitely a perk there, and all the evolutions we do are just great. So I face it with realism. So I know every time I'm about to go for a sale, I need lots of meds. I know I'm going to hate the first few days, but I know that in the end, it always is worth it.
Wow. Stephanie, what are some of your favorite ports that you've been to?
Oh, they're my favorites, all for different reasons. I really loved Bermuda. I really loved San Francisco, San Diego. I really loved, I was very lucky. I got to go to France with the Navy as well. I got to go to Normandy. I got to see Juno Beach, which was just a highlight of my career, being able to go. And I got to go for the 70th anniversary of D-Day. So the veterans were there, which was so amazing. We got to talk to the veterans. They shared their stories, such amazingly humble people. And they really did change the world. So we're thanking them for their service. We're telling them, you changed our world because of what you did. We can live in the country that we do. And they're so modest. They said, well, we just did the training and we did what we were told. We did exactly what you did. We were just in the right place at the right time. And it was also really interesting to see the architecture, because they have older buildings, older walls, older monuments. You can see all the bullet holes. So in a very real way, all of the battles are still there, still alive. The fields filled with poppies are still there. Those mountains are still there. The monuments are there. So it's history is tangible in a way there that we don't have here for things like World War II. So that was absolutely amazing. I did bring sand back from Juno Beach.
So,
I distributed it to some of my family and friends.
So Stephanie, you're a teacher now as well?
I am, yes, Civvy side.
So tell me, how does your naval career find its way into the classroom?
A couple of different ways. I would say most students are extremely excited to learn about coding. So NavComs, we use a lot of coding. Some of it's classified, some of it's not. And I give them some examples of the non-classified stuff, and they get very excited, and it really helps with problem solving in, say, math classes. And we've just added in the new Ontario curriculum, we've got a section for coding, which is fun. Okay. We're getting more into IT and technical aspects as well. In the classrooms, we've got laptops and software and hardware and smart boards and all kinds of things. So of course, as we're all using these things, issues come up and students need to solve them. So I get to help them and give them some strategies with that, which is really nice. They love pictures. They love hearing about the travel and the missions and what Canada is doing in the world. It really helps with geography and local events and things like that. Really all over.
So what ages are you teaching now?
So most of the time I supply. So I supply from kindergarten to grade 12. I also do some adult ed and I do special education. I do most subjects. And the reason I do that is so that at the drop of the hat, I can leave and do something with the Navy. Right. But every once in a while, I'll have a chunk of time where I can take somebody's mat leave or stress leave or something like that, and I'll have a class for most of the year.
Wow. Oh, the students must really benefit from like your experiences and stuff. I can just imagine the students. I remember when I was going through naval training and
Mhm.
these people that had done so much were in front of the classroom and all we wanted to hear were the stories. We just wanted
Yes,
to hear the adventure. I'm sure the students are no different.
they really do. And then they all get really excited and then they start unprompted from me. They start push-up competitions, which is really cool. So then we get fitness into the classroom as well. Of course, we have DPA in Ontario. It's daily physical activity. So for 15 minutes a day, we get our bodies moving and we find something fun that we like. Sometimes it's dancing, sometimes it's karate, sometimes it's push-up competitions because they really want to get their name up on the board.
Right.
So it's always a lot of fun.
Stephanie, so you've been now in the Navy for 10 years, right? Or 11, 10 or
It's
11 years?
11 now, yeah.
Wow, 11 years.
Imagine.
And you've been teaching alongside that. Have you inspired anybody to join the Navy in your time that you're aware of?
Not that I am currently aware of. Lots of people are very excited about it. I haven't met any students I've had who have joined yet. But a lot of them are still in elementary school, so we'll see.
We'll
That would
see
be
what
so exciting.
we'll see what happens then.
It's
So
interesting, Al. I can imagine just sitting in your classroom, Stephanie, and being totally engaged in the stories. That's really, what we're doing with this podcast. Stories are really important. My wife's
Yeah.
a teacher, and just listening to you talk, I would have loved to have been in your class.
yeah,
Oh, thank you. That's so wonderful. I really hope so, because when you're excited about learning and you're excited about where
Yeah.
you are and what you're doing, you ask the questions, you get a broader understanding, and you're motivated for more.
Stephanie, is there anybody else in your family that was in the military or
No, I am the first. I am the
right?
first. I have some extended family on my father's side, very extended, from World War II, and a few of them were naval communicators. So they're extended in the way that they have the same last name, but it's difficult to trace the ties.
Right.
I still think it's really neat, not only that they were in, but they also had my same trade. Which was really cool. But yeah, my family's been learning a lot alongside with me, all the acronyms, what everything means, how things are going, the travel, the organization.
And did you grow up right in Hamilton?
I did, yes, born and raised. It is my favorite city.
Okay.
So I can look at it and I can see logistically, is it the best? Does it have all the amenities? Sometimes no, but it will always be number one in my heart. No matter where I travel, I will always want to come home to Hamilton.
Yeah, that's cool. So now this summer, where do you go for the Navy?
So I just came back from Halifax. I was doing my sixes, getting some trade training. I'm back in Hamilton for about a week, and then I'm about to leave again to go to Valcartier in Quebec, where I'll be teaching basic training.
Wow. So is this the first time you've taught basic training?
No, I got to teach 2 years ago. And last year was a little bit different because of COVID. So they had extremely limited staff, extremely limited students. I stayed in Hamilton and I was teaching the NRD training initiative, and I was on off laser as well. So this year I'm very excited to go back.
So tell me about what that's going to be like for you to teach basic training in Valcartier.
It's a lot of fun. It's really great to be able to brush up on skills that we don't always get to use, because there's a lot of Army components in basic training. So in the field, we're living in hooches, you build your own tent sort of thing, and there's the MREs you eat, and we practice the weapons handling test, and of course drill is very important, and it's a really great environment to see people coming into the Navy for the first time, hear what they're excited about, watching them learn, watching them grow, seeing them learn to take care of each other. And it's really wonderful, because I'm so passionate about teaching. I especially enjoy basic training because I get to teach so much.
Do you remember basic training, Jerry? Being that much fun?
I not necessarily the training, but I tell you, just listening to Stephanie talk, it's brought back a flood of memories. I remember flying into British Columbia for the first time, 17 years of age. I mean, who gets that opportunity to just visit? You're and you're listening to you leaving Esquimalt and going down to San Diego. I mean, Esquimalt for me was just fascinating, and seeing all the ships, and then you leave there and it just builds on itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gets better and better every year.
Stephanie, I think being an instructor in basic training is harder than being a recruit in basic training. I mean, you're up before the recruit, you're in bed after them. You've got to prepare. You're constantly concerned about their well-being. The ones that are struggling, you want to help them, right? The ones that are excelling, you want to make sure that they're helping the others along the way. I mean, there's a lot on your plate when you're the instructor in basic training.
There is so much admin. There is so much admin. But yes, we are especially careful to take care of everybody, and not just in terms of lessons, but it's also in terms of PT. So absolutely, we are going to firmly motivate everyone. But that looks different for different people. So if someone can only do 3 push-ups, you're going to do 3 push-ups, and we're going to try for the 4th. If you can do 50 push-ups, I'm going to give you something else that is going to make you excited, and it's going to challenge you. But we also have to be very careful because it's in a valley in Quebec. It is extremely humid. It is very hot, especially for people who are coming, say, for the first time from the coasts. They've never experienced humidity like that. It doesn't get hot like that there. So in addition to acclimatizing to the weather, we're also asking them to live outside, to work out, to work at a very high pace. They're not sleeping as much as they would at home. So everybody definitely has to keep an eye on each other. They're also stressed out, so we're making sure everybody's eating, everybody's safe. We really take care of everybody's emotional, mental, and physical well-being.
Yeah, and it must, like, you remember the people that taught you basic training 11 years ago, yeah?
I do. I remember all of them.
Right. So,
and I was, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you continue.
Oh, I was very, very lucky that one of my instructors from basic training was actually my instructor on my 6s course that I just came back from. So that was really cool to come full circle. We both taught basic training now. We're both the same trade. So to come and see one of my mentors' experiences in a totally different way, now that I can appreciate more of it, was really, really rewarding.
And I mean, it must be kind of neat to think that you're going to teach basic training again this summer. I've done it already, but again this summer, and know that you're going to have the exact same impact on people there. They're going to remember you forever.
Hopefully in good ways. I'm a little bit less smiley and bubbly when I'm teaching recruits, because we need you really do need motivation, and you really need the challenge, and you need it at times when you think that you can't go any further. So while we are making sure that everyone is safe, we are pushing everyone to those steps that they didn't think they could get to.
Right.
Stephanie, I've mentioned this before, Alan, on our various interviews, but I have 2 young nieces, teenage nieces in Halifax. Mm-hmm. And when I meet a young lady like yourself, I take the opportunity to ask, what advice would you give to those 2 young ladies growing up in Halifax about life and, I guess, being successful?
I think it would be, I'm going to go back to the time when I realized that I really could do it all. I really could have it all. You can achieve the dreams, all the different things you wanted to do. You can find different ways to do it. There is no such thing as a pipe dream. So I was born to teach, and I get to do that. I always wanted to serve my country. I get to do that too. I've always been very interested in firefighting. I chose the Navy, and I get to do that as well. So you really can do absolutely anything. Look into your options. If you're not sure, ask people, watch these wonderful podcasts, see what's out there.
Yeah. So, Stephanie, you are the Naval Reserve Fleet Master Seaman. What exactly is that?
So it's brand new. The Reg Force, they have 2 of them, one for each coast. NAVRES, I'm our first one. So we're sort of figuring out what are the most important things to include. So far, it has included being a liaison for the C1s in the fleet, so the highest NCMs. So they're planning policies and they're making things better, and they need to know what are the problems on the ground. And I'm lucky again because I got to sail both coasts, and I've been in for some time, and I train new people, and I've been talking to my mentors as well. So I've got this great network of people who can tell me what's life like where they are, what's it like on the ships, what's it like in Saskatchewan, what's it like on the course, and I can push that out. These are our problems. We tried to resolve it this way. There's still this gap, and then that can be addressed. Or they can ask, okay, so we've just pushed forth this initiative. How was this training received? What are people saying about it? What are the pros? What are the cons? Which is really great because all of the problems that a lot of sailors have had trouble with over the years, in some cases it's because the Navy thought that they were addressed already, but they need a little bit of tweaking. So we get to do that. And this is a really exciting time in the Navy where we're moving forward with several initiatives. Trades are changing. It's a really great place to be, I'll say.
Well, that's an incredible honor, like to be the person that represents the master seaman and below to the institution itself to say, hey, pay attention. These are the, like, I know we've had Chief Steves on, and we've had other C1s on, and normally, quite frankly, the chiefs are quite in touch with what's going on. I would argue more so than maybe some of the senior officers. The chiefs seem to have their finger on the pulse, but even they occasionally will lose sight of what it's really like, right? And that's your job. That's an incredible honor to be given that responsibility.
It really is. And I make sure that I work very hard because I know who it is I'm representing, and it's absolutely everyone. It's not just my network. So I make sure that I'm always in contact with people. I'm always extending my network. I make sure my networks have networks. Very NAVCOM thing to say, I guess. I always give out my phone number, my email address, because I do want people to talk to me. If there are questions, if there are problems, we want them addressed.
And Stephanie, do you feel heard? Do you feel that they're listening to you when you take the concerns up?
I really do. I'm very lucky that the network that I have up there is fantastic. So I speak directly with the fleet chief, and always fantastic to work with. The leadership very much does care about the experiences of the sailors. And sometimes at the bottom, when we're wondering why things haven't changed, sometimes it's because the policy that's been put in place, it's taking a little bit too long, or there's a gap, or there's something. So it's really wonderful to be able to push that up and have people immediately address it and say, that is not what we intended. We want to make sure that everybody's happy, everyone's safe, and this is working properly.
It's exciting. That's a great.
Stephanie, sorry, Alan, for cutting you off. What was it like? I mean, I guess you're doing these by Zoom now. I can only imagine me at your age sitting in with the chiefs. And Alan and I joked about this before when we talked to Chief Steves, we're kind of cowering because it's just a natural thing when you're a young person and you're up against all this experience. It's really great to hear that that this kind of communication channel is happening. But I guess you were intimidated a little bit at the beginning, or maybe not. Tell us about it.
I definitely was at the beginning because in a very real way, these are the people that run the Navy. They run the Navy. So I was very nervous, but as it always happens in the Navy, it's people who have been in for a very long time. It's people who are very passionate about it. They all know each other very well because they've been in for so many years. And by the time you get up to that level, there's not too many people left. So you've worked with them quite a bit. And because they're all friends, they're all on a first name basis. And at first I was concerned, I'm going to be the only master sailor in the room. But they have always extended that courtesy to me. They're like, this is a meeting. We all know each other. These are everyone's names. We're talking about this. These are the policies. Tell us what you think. Yeah. And they really do make space. They very much care about the experience of the sailors on the bottom.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And again, I can't begin to that's quite a privilege for sure to be able to do that. And for the sailors and for me, that it really connects with me as we spoke before we started the conversation. My son is about to go away on his QL3, I guess it is, NavCom. Yeah, so he's about to go away on that. So it's good to meet the person that's going to represent all of the sailors, him included, and that's fantastic. Tell me now, Stephanie, it's got to be complicated to juggle this, your professional career as a civilian and your professional career as a naval communicator. How complicated is that? Or is it just for you, it seamlessly all blends together?
I think it has definitely taken some practice to find work-life balance, because I work full-time hours as a teacher, and then on top of that, there's work at my NRD, or I leave a lot. So again, networking at home has been very important. My friends and family, I've got a house here in Hamilton. They help take care of my property while I'm gone, cutting the lawn and things like that, making sure everyone's okay. But yeah, just practice. And I found that it's really the perfect blend for me, because whenever I'm here, I am very happy to be teaching. It is my passion. It brings me life. So happy to do it. But in the back of my mind, I'm always excited about my next adventure with the Navy. And same when I'm with the Navy, so excited to be there. Love running into a lot of the same people year after year, traveling, going to places, learning new things, training in areas totally outside of my chosen profession, which I'm very lucky to do. But in the back of my mind, I'm also excited to come home and, enjoy my home, my friends, my family, and teach again. So wherever I am, I'm very happy to be there, but I'm also very excited to be able to switch gears and go to something else that I love. So it's always exciting, always new.
And what a perfect balance, to be able to have both sides of those things, working together and providing so much satisfaction. It's pretty impressive.
Oh, thank you.
It is.
Makes me very happy.
Well, just thinking about what you just said, blending passions. Frankly, I've worked with people that have never been able to do that. And, they get a little bit down. The fact that you're so young and you're figured out a way of mixing things together, that is really refreshing, Stephanie. You just keep doing what you're doing. This is just brilliant. Keep doing it.
A lot of people struggle to find a passion. You found two and were able to kind of merge them together, right? And it's it really is spectacular. But I mean, the Naval Reserve, by and large, it's a great organization to offer that to people. You can continue your civilian career, but yet you can serve your country and you can get that adventure that you talk about, because there is a lot of adventure, yeah?
There really is.
Yeah. Now, have you done any trips down to Africa or places like that on the MCDVs?
No, I haven't been lucky enough to, but I have lots of friends who have, and I would love to do that. So I'm slotting. There's a spot in my future where I'm going to be able to do. Definitely, I want to do an Africa sail. I'd love to do an Asia tour. So there's still room. There's always more adventures.
Stephanie, I remember 30 years ago, it was really complicated for reservists to get contracts, and everybody was hustling in the summer to try to get on a few ships. Is it like that now, or is it pretty much, the world is open to you?
It's a little of both. So it's a blessing in disguise to reservists like me that we are so low manned in the military at large and also in the Navy. So anyone watching this, if you were thinking about joining the Navy, please do. We need you. We will absolutely benefit from everything you bring to us, and we'll bring you adventures in return. But because we have so many open spots, when you say I'm available, I have the following qualifications, or I would like the following training, it's pretty easy to get out there, but they also make sure to take from their own people first. So especially in COVID times, when you have to account for things like quarantine and testing and whether or not that goes well, of course, if there's an empty spot on a ship, they're going to look for somebody who's already on that coast that they know is good to go, rather than fly somebody and hope and cross their fingers that they'll be all right. And then right now it's also a little bit harder because we have a double cohort because of last year. There was there weren't any courses running. So we have 2 years worth of recruits who are trying to get through basic training, their first QL3, NETP, things like that. So we have expanded the courses. We've called on more instructors. So we're really trying to get everyone to where they can come and join the fleet and do the job that they wanted to do.
Exciting time. Stephanie, I know that you've given some advice to Jerry's nieces here on the call, but we always ask our guest to leave the audience with one small takeaway. You know, you've 11 years now, you've been in the Naval Reserve, serving your country with distinction, I might add, and you're teaching alongside that. I mean, you are living life to its fullest. There's no doubt about it, and you're clearly excited about it. What would be that piece of advice that you would give to the audience?
I'm going to say that it's the same advice that I gave to Jerry's nieces. Keep looking for opportunities, because there are so many, and a lot of people think that when you're in the Navy, your opportunities are sailing, and they are fantastic. But there's so many more. So we've got the Naval Security Team, where we will fly and we will provide security and maintenance to a ship when they're on a 6 to 9 month sail to give the sailors a reprieve. I've done off distinction a few times, once in France, a couple of times in Hamilton. I got to do it in Ottawa. I got to be a part of some of the training for the basic training in Fiji, where they had the first women in their country enter the Navy in basic training. So there are lots of frontiers. There's lots of things to do. You can do even more than you imagined. Keep looking for opportunities.
Right. Well, that's not far off what Matt Corbett told us as well. Matt was really all about, hey, look, when an opportunity knocks, open the door and just give it a try. That's great advice. Jerry, what are your final thoughts on today's podcast?
Well, it's funny, you know, Alan and I, Stephanie, are at quite a different stage in our careers. It's a good place, but I can tell you, talking to someone like yourself reminds me of how much I learned in the Naval Reserve. I think one of the things that you've stimulated in me is the memory of the people, the education. So as a young 17-year-old living in St. John's, Newfoundland, is as far east as you can go in the country, I had the benefit of getting to know so many people. And just listening to you today articulate the various things going on in the Navy is wonderful. It just reminds me of how beautiful a country we have, and it's just a beautiful thing. I think you have incredible leadership qualities about you, so just keep doing what you're doing, and in the end, you know, when it comes time for your career in the Navy to end, I believe wholeheartedly there'll be quite another career for you, be it in the private sector or wherever.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, and like you said, Canada is such an amazing country. You have so many opportunities, and right now, such an exciting time to be in the military when we're working and striving more towards equity and equality.
Yeah, 100%. Well, folks, just another great edition of Gale Force Winds. What an absolute privilege, pleasure it was to have a conversation with Master Sailor Stephanie MacAndrew, the Fleet Master Sailor for the Naval Reserve. That makes her the conduit between the junior sailors and the institution at large. And what an honor that is. What an honor it's been for us to be in this conversation with Stephanie. When you talk about merging passions, I don't think I've ever experienced anything like it. You've got a person who's intrigued by educating the next generation of Canadians in their civilian life, and equally intrigued about educating and leading the sailors in our Canadian Navy. It's just a wonderful thing to watch. Stephanie, I can't begin to thank you enough for your service, for the leadership that you're providing to not only kids in classes in around Ontario, but also to our sailors, one of which is actually my son, who I'm sure will cross paths with you as a naval communicator. Keep up the great work. And I can tell you this, your country is very proud of what you're doing for us. And we appreciate We appreciate your time that you've spent on Gale Force Winds today. And I always leave the audience with one small piece of advice myself, and that is the world needs more Master Sailor Stephanie MacAndrew. Thank you.
At HMCS Haida, out the window of HMCS Star in Hamilton. She is the flagship for the Royal Canadian Navy. She's currently owned by Parks and Rec, and we have tours all the time. So we've got free tours during Doors Open Hamilton. We have tours throughout the year when we aren't under COVID restrictions. And it's really, really interesting to see, as much as things change, how much they've stayed the same. The messes are similar. You can see the similarities in the CCR, in the ways that people lived and worked. It's really, really great. And the ship herself, she has extraordinary history. She has sunk U-boats in her day. Wow. We've got stories from our veterans. We've got a crew. We've got all kinds of really nice events that we like to do with her as well. So we're very lucky to have her here alongside with us on Lake Ontario.
Yeah, so she's actually, sorry, Alan, she's actually in the water, is she? Because right now you can't actually see that from the perspective.
Yes, she is actually in the water. She floats. She is seaworthy.
It must be amazing, Stephanie, to have such a piece of Canadian history right in front of you every single day.
It is. And unfortunately, it wasn't until I joined that I realized that we had the Haida here, because, of course, when you live in a city, you're so used to the parts that you go to all the time that you are rarely a tourist in your own city. You don't see all the things that make it so amazing. So as soon as I joined, I saw it here, and I started hearing the stories. I got on for a tour, and it's so great to have the kind of tangible history that, as I mentioned before, you usually only get in places like Europe.
And Stephanie, does the crew of Star, do you guys have any functions or events on board Haida throughout the year?
We do. We definitely host Remembrance Day there. We will have memorial services and things like that. Every once in a while, when the fleet would like an extra special video or participation, and we have videos of people from around the country, raising a flag or ringing the bell, we make sure that the Haida is always included. So we've got people on board there. And Parks and Rec is absolutely fantastic with helping us include everything about her as much as we can.
Wow. And does Haida have a crew, or are those Parks Canada folks?
There are Parks Canada folks that they work here, and they'll lead the tours, and they are extremely knowledgeable. They lead the tours for the cadets as well. We're really lucky that we have a building across the way that's filled with sea cadets, and they're always very interested in the history. They get to hear all the stories. So for them to step foot on an actual warship that has seen conflict is really amazing.
Stephanie, I guess a final question as it relates to Haida. You don't get seasick when you step on board that, do you?
No, I do not get seasick when I'm still in the harbor. I'm not quite that bad.
Stephanie, that's just Alan giving you a hard time now. Give it up, Alan.
That's great, Stephanie. Thanks very much for that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, good.
Thank you for tuning in to Gale Force Winds. That's Gale Force Winds, WINS.com.